If your briskets turn out dry and tough like this one, then stick around because I'm going to show you how to make delicious, juicy and tender briskets on your ceramic barbecue.
Big thanks to Kamaodo Joe for sponsoring this episode.
If you've ever cooked a brisket before, then you know the first one is never going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of skills that you need to learn at home to make sure that you get the perfect brisket. And honestly, there are a lot of videos online saying how to make a brisket, but they don't go into the details that you actually need to make a perfect brisket on a ceramic barbecue. It has to be easy because I want everybody to be able to taste a delicious brisket. So I'm going to start from the beginning and teach you everything you need to know. It all starts by selecting the right brisket. If you're just buying something random or something super cheap, it might be that you're going to be disappointed with the end result. The briskets that I love to buy the best is the briskets that have a good amount of intermuscular fat because it makes the chances of success a lot higher. Now that will cost you a little bit more, but there's a good reason. It's because the farmer put in a lot more effort to create delicious meat, and that costs a little bit more. Now, how can you tell if it's good or not? Well, this is the flat part of the brisket, and this flat part has a lot of intramuscular fat. After I take it out, I'm going to inspect the brisket. I'm going to look for the intramuscular fat. I'm going to look for the amount of fat that sits on top of the brisket. And of course you can buy a brisket pre-trimmed, or you can buy a whole packer like this, and then you will have to do some of the trimming yourself. But in general, it's a little bit cheaper, and I don't mind doing the work because I'm going to end up with a lot of beef tallow. And I'll show you how to do that later on. I'm going to put the trimmings in my cast iron pan. Now what I want to do is I want to extract the meat out of this fat gap, because that's basically what this looks like. This is grain-fed beef. Black Angus beef, and you see this is all fat, so that's going to go into the pan. And briskets are easiest to trim when they're cold. Big blob of fat sitting on top of here. And the funny thing is that I used to find it hard to trim my briskets, and the reason why is because I never really understood the way that a brisket works. How does it fit in the cow, and where should I cut, where shouldn't I cut? The best way to do it is just to start trimming off the big blobs of fat, and then at some point you discover the shape of the real brisket that lies underneath, and it will show you the way of how you need to trim it up. Like here, we're just getting rid of this and trimming off the fats, not just for competition briskets, it is also for home style briskets, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can make like a little cut that's wrong, that's okay, because after you cook it, it will still taste amazing. I've got most of the fat removed and I'm getting close to the end result, and this is the moment where I want to move to my cutting board because I'm now going to cut into the meat. As you can see, this is really thin. That's just going to burn up. So I'm going to trim it down just a little bit, not too much. I still like to have a little bit of burned ends at the end, so I don't mind this part, but I do mind this little bit of fat sitting up top here. Just going to take that off. But please keep in mind that if you're trimming a brisket for a ceramic barbecue, that it's a different trimming than when you're going to put it on an offset smoker. On an offset smoker, you want to take into consideration the airflow that goes through the offset smoker, while on a ceramic barbecue, you don't mind because the heat is coming from down below and will slowly heat up the brisket, and it will not burn the outside as fast as with an offset smoker. This is the point of the brisket, and this is the flat of the brisket, and there's a little bit of fat in here. That's going to stay because that just runs in between the two pieces of meat, and we need to keep it there. Now at the bottom here, you can see it's nice and flat. I'm going to see if I can remove some of that hard fat still. There we go. Now this is a good looking brisket, but let me show you how much trimming we got right here. It is insane. The amount of trimming is huge. What are we going to do? Are we going to throw this away? Are we going to put it in burgers? Well, you can, but you're going to have a lot of fat, and that means you're going to need a lot of burgers. Or you can turn it into beef tallow. And to make that easy, I'm going to cube up the trimmings, cut them into smaller pieces. This goes into my Dutch oven. I'm going to put the lid on, put it on my gas burner, and then set that to the lowest position, and I'm going to slowly let the beef fat melt so it turns into a beautiful light golden beef tallow. Well, this brisket is going to be tasty, juicy, delicious, tender, all the things that you need, but we're going to make it even better by adding some seasoning. The job of the seasoning is to enhance the flavors of the beef. And therefore I'm going to use some of the Texas barbecue seasoning that we have with PITMASTERX. Now the recipe for this you can find on our website, or you can buy this in our web shop if you want to. We deliver worldwide. I'm going to sprinkle this on from a height so that I get an even coat. If you're cooking briskets, you're cooking a big cut of beef. And that means you need to add a little bit more seasoning compared to, for instance, a steak. And the rule is the thicker the meat, the more seasoning you're going to need. Once I got my first layer applied, I'm going to go in for my second layer. And in this case, I'm using the Tweety barbecue seasoning, but you can use whatever you like. For instance, the Euro seasoning, the PITMASTERX beef seasoning, all that will go perfect with our brisket. The Tweety has a little bit of power to it with its chili pepper, and it's going to give this brisket a lot of color. Now that I have the seasoning applied, I'm just going to let this brisket sit as it is. So while I'm firing up the Kamado Joe Big Joe, this is soaking up flavor. That little bit of time is going to make sure that none of that seasoning is going to fall off when we put this brisket on the barbecue. First I'm going to use a poke to remove all the old ashes from my last cook. Then I'm going to add more charcoal, put the fire starters in, light them up, and once the flames burn down, I'm going to put in 2 chunks of oak smoke wood. The spider, the heat deflectors and the grill grates go in, and as you can see we're already getting plenty of smoke, so it's time to put the brisket on. I'm going to stick in a wireless thermometer so I can keep my eye on the temperature no matter what I'm doing. Then I'm going to close the lid. Close the bottom vent to 1 finger open and set the top vent to 1.5 stripe. I just got the notification the brisket's running at a core temperature of 70 degrees Celsius, which means, as I promised, we're going to take a look at it. And the reason why I want to take a look, because we're going to check on color. You see, 70 degrees Celsius is the temperature where the brisket stops taking on smoke flavor from the barbecue. So from here on out, we're just packing smoke flavor onto the brisket on the outside. It's not getting in there. And therefore really it makes no sense to continue smoking the brisket. And as you can see, this brisket's got a beautiful color. It's got a nice dark bark. It definitely picked up smoke color, and we've got a little bit of that Tweety barbecue rub still shining through, giving it its golden shine. I'm going to take a large piece of butcher's paper. Just got it. As you can see, there's a little bit of wind, and it's for people that are thinking that I'm not cooking outdoors, I'm cooking outdoors, most definitely. Look at this beauty. Whoa. That is just one gorgeous piece of meat. The reason that I'm wrapping my brisket in butcher's paper is to protect it. We got plenty of smoke color, we got plenty of heat on this brisket, and if we get more on it, it's going to be a little bitter or a little bit of sour from the smoke. And I really don't need that on my brisket. I need that perfect brisket flavor. With a ceramic grill, it means we always have to wrap. Here's the trick. I'm going to take a little bit of the beef tallow and put it on my brisket. It's like adding a little bit of butter. Whoa! Enjoy the challenge. Let's just put it that way. Whoa! Funny thing is that normally the wind just doesn't come from this direction. Let's wrap it up nice and tight. And as you can see, there's this little shine through piece. I'm going to stick that thermometer back in. There we go. And this now goes back on the Big Joe. Same position, dead center. We got plenty of charcoal still left. I'm going to open up the bottom vent a little bit, and I'm going to let that temperature come up to 140 degrees Celsius, which is around 280 degrees Fahrenheit. I just got the notification that the brisket reached a core temperature of 92 degrees Celsius, which means we now need to take it off. And we need to hurry about it because we don't want to overshoot too much. I'm going to close the bottom and the top vent. That will save me some charcoal. I can reuse that in the next cook. Now this brisket needs to rest. And for me, that means I'm going to take 2 stages of resting. The first is just put it on the countertop like this. Let it just mellow out a little bit. We've been cooking pretty hard on this brisket, and it's been building up a lot of heat inside this package. And if I would put it in a cooler right now, it would just continue to cook real fast, and I don't want to overshoot too much on my temperature. So I'm giving it a little bit of time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'm moving it either to my cooler, or I'm going to stick it in my oven Keep it at the plate warm setting or the food warm setting, which is around 60 degrees Celsius. Patience will be rewarded, so let's see. That reward. Oh, careful now. Tear this off. All right. Whoa. Let the juices not go to waste. I'm going to slice into this and we're going to take a closer look. That looks freaking amazing. Look at that. Ceramic barbecue, when you smoke it to 70 degrees and just let the fat drip, that heat deflector, and get the smoke from the chunks of smoke wood. That is one good looking smoke ring. The fat's been rendered down. See all these holes, that's where the fat used to be. And now we have a delicious brisket. Oh, that is tender. Almost no pull. A little bit of juice. Taste test time. That is an amazing brisket. That is really, really fantastic. You know, the first couple of brisket that you're gonna make might be disappointing because you gotta get into it. You're gonna try and try and try again, and hopefully this video helps you to make a better brisket on your ceramic barbecue, because you can do it. Drag it through the gravy.
Look at this. This is crazy good. Oh. Wow, that's really nice.
That is one good brisket.
That's a lot of flavor.
Beef tallow definitely helps, but the flavor is all from the beef. Also the beef tallow came from the beef. It's a great trick. Well, let's have another slice.
Oh, yeah. You gotta do this.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're missing out.
It's maybe the best part of the cooking briskets, dipping it in the fat.
What do you like more? The flat? Or
No, it's gotta have a little bit of both. For me the point's almost too fatty, but then the flat's just nice, real beefy. I don't know if it's true, but I feel like there's more beef flavor and more beef texture in the flat part, while there's more fat in the point, which makes it rich and tasty. But you ate the whole brisket. I just walked away to show you the beef tallow. So yeah, put this in the fridge, and now I can just, every time I need a little bit of beef tallow, I can just scrape it off. No need to buy Wagyu beef tallow. You can just make it yourself.
It's so clear. Ice cream.
For breakfast, I'm gonna fry an egg in this.
Oh, that's good.
That's gonna be a good breakfast.